Behind every unsuccessful empath, there is a narcissist. You may not always see them. Sometimes they're long gone. Sometimes they're still in your life. Sometimes they do not even appear to have done anything outright. But if you dig deep, you will always find their fingerprints on your paralysis, shame, and lost years. And I say this with conviction because I have lived it. I have seen it in my own life, in the lives of my clients, and thousands of stories from survivors who are still clawing their way out of invisible prisons built by their narcissistic abusers. So let's talk about it deeply and truthfully, the way it needs to be talked about, not the surface level fluff that tells you just believe in yourself. I'm talking about what really happens when a narcissist quietly destroys your spirit and leaves you unable to move forward. Hi, I am Danish, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional. Welcome to my channel. The topic for today's episode is proof behind every unsuccessful empath is a narcissist. Let's begin with shame. You know what a narcissist's favorite game is? It is to shame you out of your own life. It starts small. Maybe they tease you about how you talk or how you look or how you do things. They make jokes that leave you questioning your worth. Then it escalates. Every dream you bring to them is mocked or dismantled. If you say you want to start a business, they tell you that you're not cut out for it. If you say you want to switch careers, they tell you that you're too old or too stupid to pull it off. If you say you want to move on to a new city, they guilt trip you and paint you as selfish for even thinking of it. Over time, their constant shaming starts to shape your inner world. You begin to absorb their judgments like a sponge. Their projections become your reality. You stop asking, are they right or wrong? You start believing you are wrong. This is the gaslighting effect in action. A lie told repeatedly by someone who you view as an authority figure or are deeply attached to eventually feels more real than your own truth. And before you know it, your sense of potential is gone. Your self belief is shattered. You are no longer the person who dares to take risks and explore new horizons. You are a shell of yourself, trapped in a false reality designed to keep you small. And this is why so many empaths, with all their brilliance and depth, never become what they're capable of becoming. The shame planted by the narcissist is the invisible chain around their ankle. The next thing is unmanifested potential. One of the greatest tragedies I see in narcissistic abuse survivors is the sheer amount of unmanifested potential that lies dormant within them. So many of you are gifted. You have creative minds, kind hearts, and deep intuition. You have ideas that could change the world, and yet you remain stuck. Why? Because you have been programmed to doubt yourself at every step. You hesitate to speak up in meetings. You stop applying for better jobs because you keep thinking you're unworthy. You abandon creative projects halfway through because you hear the narcissist's voice in your head saying, who do you think you are? You're not going to make this. And so your light never fully shines. You stay in jobs you hate. You remain financially dependent. You unfortunately silence your own voice. You shrink yourself to fit inside the cage the narcissist built for you. And the worst part is you blame yourself for it. You tell yourself, oh, I'm lazy, or I'm unmotivated, or incapable. But you're none of those things. You are traumatized. You are carrying layers of shame that were never yours to begin with. This is why I say behind every unsuccessful empath is a narcissist. Here is the proof. Even if the narcissist is no longer in the picture, their psychological poison remains, which brings us to financial control. The narcissist either directly controls the money or creates an environment where you cannot access the resources you need to thrive. If you share finances, they withhold money from you when you need it the most. If you propose an idea that would empower you, like taking a course, starting a business, or even buying tools for your craft, what would they do? they will find a way to kill your motivation. Sometimes it's overt. They insult you, call you stupid, tell you your dreams are foolish. Nobody is going to buy that. Sometimes it's covert. They go cold, give you nasty looks, withhold affection, become passive aggressive until you give up. And they do this purposefully and intentionally. They know that if you succeed, you will gain independence. And if you become independent, what will happen? You will no longer need them, which terrifies the narcissist to their core because their power over you depends on your dependence. I have seen this play out in my own life. My father forced me into a career path I never wanted. He pushed me toward engineering when my heart was in the arts and healing work. I had no choice. I was trapped in his financial and emotional control. For years, my true potential remained dormant. It was only when I reclaimed my autonomy and pursued clinical psychology that I began to thrive. But many survivors never get to that point. They remain stuck, unfortunately, in careers they hate, dreams they abandoned, because the narcissist conditions them to believe they cannot do better. All of this leads to what? Paralysis of initiation. Even after the narcissist is gone, many empaths struggle with what I call paralysis of initiation. This is the inability to start, the crippling self doubt that stops you from taking even the first step toward your dreams. You may even have a supportive environment now, and yet you cannot move. Every time you try, a wave of fear and shame washes over you. You hear the narcissist's voice telling you that you will fail. You feel that sickening sense of, I am not enough, I am not worthy, I won't do this. And so you stay stuck. I've seen this in a lot of survivors. One person I know had every resource available to start a new life. It was my friend. Supportive family, money, opportunities, and yet he could not move forward. No matter how much encouragement he received, he remained frozen by the deep seated belief that he was destined to fail. This is not laziness, this is trauma in action. And unless it is addressed, it will continue to sabotage your life long after the narcissist is gone. Now, let's talk about the cycle that becomes vicious. When you remain stuck, you start to judge yourself harshly, okay? You feel ashamed of being paralyzed, you compare yourself to others and wonder why you cannot seem to move forward. You call yourself a loser, a failure, a waste of potential, a waste of resources, but none of this is your fault. You are carrying what I call alien shame. Shame that was implanted in you by a narcissist who needed you to stay small so they could feel big. And the more you blame yourself, the deeper the shame cycle goes. You become your own harshest critic, repeating the narcissist's abuse inside your own mind. This is why so many empaths remain unsuccessful. Not because they lack talent, not because they lack ambition, but because they are trapped in an internal war created by years of narcissistic manipulation. Now, you may wonder if this is happening to so many empaths, why don't more people see it? Because nobody believes them. That's the problem. One of the most insidious aspects of this dynamic is that narcissists often operate under a veil of plausible deniability. They rarely put physical chains on you. They do not always stop you by force, do they? Instead, they use subtle psychological games that are far more powerful. They plant seeds of doubt. They gaslight your perception of reality. They chip away at your confidence day by day. And when you fail to move forward, they say, I never stopped you. You just did not try hard enough. That's what they say. It is a masterful form of abuse that leaves you confused, blaming yourself, unable to see the invisible strings that have been controlling your life. Now, if you take one thing from this conversation, let it be this. You are not the problem. You never were. If you are an empath who feels stuck, unsuccessful, or paralyzed, look deeper. There is almost always a narcissistic influence behind that state, whether it was a parent, a partner, a boss, or a so called friend. Their shame, that gaslighting, that financial control, manipulation, these are the forces that have shaped your current struggles. And there is a good news though. It's not doom and gloom. Once you clearly see it, you can begin to break free. Breaking free and reclaiming your life from this dynamic is not easy, but it is possible. I can tell you that. It begins with awareness. Recognize the voices in your head that are not yours. Name the shame for what it is: alien shame implanted by an abuser, by a narcissist. Next, take small steps to reclaim agency over your life, which can be registering for my free workshop. And the topic is how to thrive after narcissistic abuse. It is happening in 3 chapters. One is already done, which happened on June 5th. Next one is happening on June 9th. You can still watch a replay and then join me. The last one will happen on June 12th. Don't miss this opportunity. I only do this once a year. Join me by clicking the link in the description of this episode and secure your spot. I will talk to you in the next one and in the webinar if you join. Until then, as always, let the healing begin and continue.